Fit for Life Radio, episode number 188. I'm Gary.
Will.
And today we're going to be talking about BMI.
This is a often controversial
Is it
topic.
useless? Is BMI useless?
Is it useful?
We've touched on this before.
Yeah.
We have a new details study to go over from the Precision Nutrition Research Insider. And it's a common thing we get, fairly common, where people are like, in general, across the board, a lot of people are just like, BMI's dumb, because it doesn't take into account everything. And
they carry a lot of muscle
and most people are more concerned. And then on a, serious note, a lot of people ask and clients like, hey, should I, what's the deal with this? Like, is BMI useful? Is it helpful? And most people come at it from, they may be in a higher range and they're wondering if, maybe I'm more muscled and it's not taking into account that. And even though I'm like overweight or obese, according to my BMI, I'm actually at a healthy body composition.
Yeah.
Now, which is legitimate, can be a legitimate thing.
It absolutely can be.
But the interesting thing, so we're going to go over a couple things. There's a study and then some other studies and observations. So that's one angle. So this research review here, it basically is body fat percentage versus BMI, right? So yeah, in theory, like our body fat percentage tells us the percentage of us that is fat and would be a more accurate indicator than BMI, which is, it is more helpful. But it's also harder to track.
BMI is pretty easy to find.
Yeah, there's not necessarily
That's why they use it.
Super exact ways to get our body fat percentage. So it's just a harder measurement.
And it's harder to measure a lot of people's body fat percentage.
Yeah.
Versus BMI, you can do a pretty large population with just some simple data, a couple points, and you're good.
Yep. But like this research review that we'll dive into here and other things, the actual bigger concern people should probably have is, yes, like some people, man, am I overweight or obese? And like maybe I carry more muscle, that's throwing things off. But the more scarier offense, is scarier a word?
No, I think it's more scary.
More scared?
It's more
fearful?
Scary or scarier.
Yeah.
You can't do both, though.
Scary.
Well, the English teachers right now are probably just banging their heads against the table. Sorry, we failed you.
Y'all know what we mean. And this is like one of our crusades that we're our mission driving us forward. But there's a lot of people who you can also be a normal BMI, but obese or over fat body composition.
Yeah. That one's...
Which then, that's going to have negative health consequences, right? So, and essentially a study kind of looked at this. So, because ultimately the ratio of our weight to height, which is basically what BMI is, cannot distinguish between muscle and fat. So then body fat percentage basically gives us a ratio of our fat to muscle. And the fat to muscle ratio is actually, it's super, super helpful to know.
Yeah,
right?
it's way more helpful.
Like we would say if someone's overweight BMI, but a healthful muscle and fat ratio, I'd rather have the healthful muscle and fat ratio and just the overweight BMI.
Yep.
Versus maybe you have a good BMI weight to height ratio, but your muscle to fat ratio is high, or your fat to muscle. So what are the odds that you're in any of these camps, right? Now, ideally, you'd be a normal body weight with a good muscle to fat ratio.
That's the ideal situation.
There's that, right? So, So ultimately, there was a study done. This was in Israel.
So not even America.
Yeah, and our first thing was like, well,
still
man,
a Western country, but
yeah, America's going to be probably even worse off, right? Which is kind of the case from when we start looking after this information. But yeah, in Israel, they recruited at a university, Tel Aviv, recruited 3,001 adults. That bothers me.
Why'd they get that one?
3,001 adults ranging in age from 20 to 95. And they measured the participants' body fat percentage with DEXA and compared it to their BMI. All right, so what did they find?
Just hit it.
A third of the participants had a BMI in the normal weight range.
Just 30%.
Yeah,
That's it.
so right there, 30. So essentially 30% had a normal BMI and 70% had either an overweight
or an obese.
So if you're familiar with BMI, there's basically like, well, there's underweight, normal weight, overweight,
and then obese.
But now within that 30% that had a normal weight group, 38% of the females, and so we'll kind of we'll say 40% of the females.
Let's round up a little bit.
And 26%, so we'll say 25%, quarter. So 38, 40% of the females, which is more than a third.
Yeah.
Getting close
That's
to
a lot.
half. And a quarter of the males were classified as having obesity based on their body fat percentage. So that meant that even though they were in the normal BMI range, their actual body fat percentage jumped them technically into an obese range. Right? So if they just went by their BMI, they were well under muscled and over fat and are going to have higher risk, of adverse issues, right? So, and this is 38, 40% of the females, a quarter of the men. So now when you break that down, man, like only 30% were in that normal BMI range. So the amount of people that are in the normal BMI range and have a good normal
it's not a
body
lot.
composition is so small.
And actually, I looked it up. Their obesity rates are pretty high. They would be comparable to ours, I would say. They might not be quite there, but they're similar enough, I think. So this is a pretty good parallel comparison, I think.
And then just so you know, what they were classifying as obesity with body fat percentage, 25% or more body fat for men was classified as obesity, and 35% or more for females. And it could, because at those percentages, they're kind of cutoff amounts that are linked to cardiovascular disease among adults with a normal BMI.
So, thinking about it, like the obesity rate's pretty high, but it didn't include this.
Yeah.
So now if you actually include that on top of, already established overweight, obese statistics, dude, that's a lot. That's a lot of people.
And we'll be able to get a rough number because we're about to get there. Because someone playing devil's advocate would be, well, what about the people that are classified as overweight or obese that aren't technically by body? Well,
let's do it.
We'll get there.
We got the receipts, baby.
So there's that, right? So now the scientists technically categorize those people as normal weight obese. Now there is a term, especially in the fitness industry, for this. And we actually
the unofficial term.
This term is getting more popular because we'll meet a lot of. I had a phone call the other day with someone, and this is what they called themselves.
Yeah, then this is actually it's way more common for me too.
Kind of considered like skinny fat, right? So your weight's normal. You don't look, in your clothes like you don't have a bunch of. It doesn't seem like you have a bunch of weight hanging around, but technically you just have a little amount of lean mass and muscle, and still a higher percentage of you is body fat.
And then your frame appears to be whatever, a more normal, healthy body weight would look like.
Yep. And then with this, the rest of the participants in that BMI range, then they labeled normal weight lean, right? So basically, people who had their, based off of their height and weight ratio, were a normal BMI, but then, like we said, they found that 38% of the women actually were obese, if you looked at their body fat percentage and 26% of the men. So then that left the other amount that weren't, and those are classified as normal weight lean. So here's how the two groups compare to each other in a variety of health factors. All right. So they basically, it's either like significant differences between the two groups, or the differences were too small to be significant, right? So again, you see how they're breaking it down. Like, okay, if we went by BMI, cool, you're in a good weight, you're good, right? Well, they're just basically diving a little deeper. Well, no, actually,
let's peel that back and add another layer.
Yeah, in this normal group, or their body composition actually shows them as they should be classified as obese. And then what does this even mean? So if we're looking at those people in this group. Okay, so abdominal circumference, which has a lot of connections. Yeah, so in normal weight obese males compared to normal weight lean males, there is a significant difference between the two groups. Same thing for the females, right? So if you're not sure, you don't have access to body fat a good way. And actually, we break this down in a podcast, and in our group with our gym, we have a document we use where we actually prefer using waist circumference.
Waist circumference is a good one.
It's going to give you a better indicator.
There's no way around that. Like, there's no reason that like you're going to have a out of the ordinary waist circumference and like a healthy body fat percentage.
Yeah. Most of these are going to be like obvious fat mass. Yes, there's a significant difference between the two. Lean mass. That's how you have a
body fat percentage. That's just breaking it down both ways.
Resting metabolic weight. Or I'm sorry,
weight or rate?
Resting metabolic rate. Yep. Significant difference. Triglycerides.
Your fatties.
Yep. Significant difference. HDL cholesterol. No. Total cholesterol. There was a significant difference for the men between the two men groups. Normal weight lean versus normal weight obese. There was not for the females.
So for men, the LDL was probably different. That's what
yep. Yeah, and it was. So they broke that down. LDL for men was different, women was not. So you see, obviously, your body composition, fat mass, lean mass, there's abdominal circumference, massive differences, and it seems to affect your triglycerides.
Your health markers.
Which is a common health marker. And then cholesterol, hit or miss, more so for guys than girls. Now, the other side of this coin.
Let's get to it. Let's get to the muscled.
Is what most people hope to be is, oh man, I'm classified as a overweight by BMI.
Like I just have a lot of muscle.
I know, I got so much muscle, so I'm good. Well, here's their numbers from the study. There was, how many people fell into that? So in the overweight BMI category, which is a BMI between 25 and 30, 30% of the males and 11% of the females had a healthy body fat percentage. So it does happen, right? Now, but you see, it's actually a less percentage than the other way. Well, for guys, actually, it was 30. So 30% of men do end up where they're in an overweight BMI category, but their body composition puts them in a healthy body fat percentage. And then what was it? 25% of the men can be in a healthy body fat. BMI, but overweight body fat percentage. So you see, for men, it's kind of like about a quarter.
Yeah,
you may find yourself in these circumstances.
Little exchange rate. But
for women, it was 11%. Only 11% are actually in the overweight BMI category and actually in a healthy body fat percentage. And then vice versa, almost 40%, 38% can be in a healthy BMI, but are actually overweight body fat percentage. So you actually see, for women,
it's way more of an issue.
BMI is, you probably need to dig deeper. For most men, odds are BMI's more accurate alone. and here's the other thing. We're missing a category, right? Obese. Remember, there's obese.
Yep. So we still have one category. Is that 30 or above?
30 or above BMI. Yeah. Basically, if the people that were in the obese BMI category, 30 and above, almost everyone had excessive body fat. And
I mean, it's hard to be in that point and be
so out of 611 participants, which how many did we say there was overall?
3,001, because that bothers you.
So 611 of them had a BMI of obesity.
It's a fifth, 20%.
And only 20 of them, 17 males and 3 females, had body fat percentages in the healthy range.
Which is a pretty negligible.
Yeah. It's like...
It's 3% total.
3% total. And so for women, it's like probably like less than 1%.
Yeah.
So the reality is, if you're in the obese BMI, you're
there's good chance that
you're not. Then
that's accurate.
I'm in the obese BMI, but technically I shouldn't be concerned because I'm, jacked and lean. Odds are you're not that jacked and lean.
Absolutely.
So
I agree.
So again, now especially you see for females, the reality is if you have an obese BMI, an overweight BMI, or healthy BMI, there's
a big chance that
40% chance that you're obese based on your body composition.
Yeah, which is a weird thing to kind of maybe reconcile in your brain.
Well, it's more than 40%. It's 40% if you're in the overweight. It's basically 100% if you're in the
obese,
and basically overweight. So the reality is,
overweight would have been more than that. Overweight was only 11%.
No, it was only 11.
Yeah, 11% that were muscled. So
it's almost 100, then it's almost 90, and then there's actually 40 in the overweight one. So I don't know if we did the math on that. What's the average of all three?
I don't have the brain for that. It's a lot,
but you get what we're saying. So the reality is, most women need to gain some muscle.
Yeah, I think that's the big takeaway is everybody, but I think women in particular, like gaining muscle should be a priority because most are under muscled.
Yeah.
And that affects a lot of things. It's not just, your aesthetics. Like there's a lot of health implications to having a high body fat percentage. So, adding muscle metabolically is just a good move for you.
Yeah.
Like it's a healthy thing that most people need to do. That's our main mission.
Yeah. And like we said, some of the takeaways are, for one, body fat measurements are imprecise. They can still be helpful though. Because like we mentioned, most people, they may not have access to a DEXA machine or bod pod, and then you also need to do them consistently under the same circumstances. But really, in front, like we saw from the data, some of the three key things you can do is there is obviously a very higher percentage value in BMI, right? Like, especially for men, and then women, if you end up falling in the obese and overweight category,
there's a chance those are accurate.
Pretty accurate, right? Like it's over 90% chance accurate, right? And then the reality is if you fall in the normal range, you should actually be like, there's actually, this isn't as accurate, right? And then with men, if you're in the obese BMI,
you're obese.
It's accurate. It's more than likely accurate. If you're in the overweight BMI, there's a 30% chance it's inaccurate.
So you still got a 70% chance that this is right.
Is. And then if you're in the normal range BMI, there's an 80% chance, 75% chance that's
correct as well.
It's accurate.
So definitely a lot easier for men to kind of see the accuracy with BMI.
Yeah. And then we see, one of the more accurate things to do is, get your height and weight so that you can get your BMI. So to answer the question that the title of this episode proposes is, yes, BMI is helpful. And then it's probably helpful to get like the circumference of your waist.
Waist circumference is a really big one.
Because then we saw that was a big difference. And so if you're normal range, I don't even think you need to worry about your body fat. So see where your BMI checks out and see where your waist circumference checks out. If you can, it should be pinned in our Facebook group. Like,
let me check it out.
Something about I have a post about health, and then that breaks down. There should be a picture of
yeah, I think I see it.
Waist measurements.
Beep, boop, boop, beep. Body health and longevity roadmap. Is that the one? Nope. Nope.
If you know me, you know I'm always on the run, up early and home late, so having a 3-hour morning routine isn't really in the cards for me. What is in the cards is AG1. It's a fast way to get vitamins and minerals I need to perform. I first gave AG1 a try because I wanted a single solution that helps support my entire body by filling in nutrient gaps and simplifying my morning routine. Since drinking AG1 daily, I've always felt strong and energized and ready to attack the day. Not only does AG1 deliver my daily dose of vitamins, minerals, pre- and probiotics, and more, it's a powerful, healthy habit that's also powerfully simple. It's 1 scoop mixed in water once a day and every day. I know that AG1 is giving my body high-quality nutrition. Every batch of AG1 goes through a rigorous testing process, so you know that it's safe. And AG1 ingredients are sourced for absorption, potency, and nutrition density. AG1 is a supplement that I trust to provide the support my body needs daily, and that's why I'm excited to welcome them as a new partner. Here is your chance to start every day this season with a gift to yourself. Try AG1 and get a free 1-year supply of vitamin D3K2 and 5 free AG1 travel packs with your first purchase exclusively at drinkag1.com/provengrit. That's drinkag1.com/provengrit. Check it out.
Where should my priorities be?
Yeah.
There we go. All right. Okay, so waist circumference. So we'll go males first, and then we'll go females after. So males less than 37, no increased health risk for your waist measurement. 37 to 40, there's an increased risk. Anything greater than 40, significant increase in your risk. So those are pretty good guidelines for most people.
Yeah. So I would aim for guys, right, to be a normal BMI, or maybe if you are overweight BMI, to at least then make sure your waist circumference is 37 or less.
And then for women, less than 32 is a good goal for just no adverse health effects. 32 to 37 inches, we're getting, a little riskier. And then anything greater than 37, you really need to.
So for women, now this is going to be tricky too, because you could be normal BMI. Your waist circumference, there was a significant difference, but even then, depending, you could probably be a 32 and still be
obese.
But probably not as likely, right? Yeah. So I would say that's
still pretty good guideline-wise.
Yeah, to get to a normal BMI and then get your waist circumference under 32, and that should be the goal, right? And here's the thing for women, that's the thing. It's not about just your body weight, right?
Not at all. If this shows anything, it's that's not the most accurate thing.
Yeah, and we see that it's not about the lowest body weight possible, and you have to realize your healthiest you. And here's the thing, we talk also the leanest you, the tone you that you're trying to get to could actually weigh more than you think, because we want the muscle and the lean tissue. You want that. You need that. And if you just try to diet yourself away and just get to a low body weight, you could still be obese.
Yeah.
That
happens a lot, especially when people don't do any resistance training. They do a ton of cardio.
And they're just losing muscle, but not actually losing body fat.
Yeah. And then you end up in that place where you're thin, but you have no muscle, and and most people will be like, I don't like how I look. I thought I would look better. It's because they lose that muscle mass. And that's what gives us our look and our shape that most people want, to see the individual muscle and the shape that it has, that toned look, you got to have it there. So when we don't do that resistance training, we end up in that, seemingly normal looking obese person.
Yep.
So yeah, it's a tricky thing, but it's kind of wild. I didn't think about how many people probably fall into that.
Yeah.
To tack onto our current obesity statistics. What is that at now?
So then, that was the last thing. Let's see. So when we look at that, that's based on BMI. But now we know that. So what if we did we have to do some generic numbers, right? So say we know the percentages of what, like 50%, 70%, what is it, 70%
so it's 40%,
are overweight?
40% are obese, and then it's...
I think it's like 70% total
it's
overweight
between
or obese.
60 and 70. Let's see. I got it right here. Overweight rates in America.
Yeah. It's 42, like you said, are American adults have obesity and 30% are overweight. So,
72%.
72% are
at least overweight. And then,
so only, 28 are normal BMI. But now we know, so we'll do guys. Now we know technically 30% of those overweight ones. So let's say we had a thing of 100 people.
Okay.
100 men. And 40, we know that 70, we'll do a little bit easier math. 70%.
So for a man, it's almost even.
Or overweight.
Right?
No, because we got to break it down. So if we know the overweight ones are overweight. Or no, I'm sorry, the obese ones are obese. So then 30% are overweight. So that means 30 out of the 100. And then of that 30% of them are actually a healthy body composition, right? So what's 30% of 30?
Well, you got me doing some...
It's got to be 9, right?
It is 9. Damn, that was good. Look at you with the math.
So now 9, that means 9 of the original 100 that were technically...
Overweight
are actually, we'll put them in the healthy weight. But then we know 25% of the normal weight, which is, so what's 25% of 30?
7.5
are technically overweight, right? So it's actually only a trade-off of 1.5 people. Yeah. So we actually see for men, it kind of basically checks out.
Yeah, that rate's pretty true.
Yeah, you get a little trade there. So now for women,
this is going to change.
So we'll do the same thing. We'll say 100. And just so you know, it's actually probably a little worse because this is between. Oh no, never mind. Nix that. So women is going to be a little worse. So let's see. So say we'll take our number 100. And if 70% of them are overweight or obese, and we know 30%, and we know basically all the obese are obese, and then of the 30% that are overweight, so that's 30 people, 11, so we'll just say 10% of them is actually a healthy body composition.
That's 3.
So that's 3. But then we know that 38%, so we'll say 40 of the 30%. So what's 40% of 30? 12.
So that's 9 more people.
So that's a 9 difference. So 9 more actually overweight. And we originally had 30. So 30. So it actually means 40.
So it's almost 10% higher.
A 10% difference. Yeah. So that actually means only 20% of the women are healthy lean. And
so it is even. So like 80%.
Yeah,
are overweight. Are we oversimplifying this a little bit? Yeah, but I think the numbers are pretty.
Yeah. Now and then this filters down into a big passion of ours, right?
Yeah, I mean this is why we do what we do,
and we've talked about this before. Why is it? Because they're women? No. I, think that it is of my opinion, a big factor is this. It's been the environmental forces.
The cultural
forces.
Has been,
over the years of where women are encouraged to crash diet, which increases the amount. Yes, you may lose weight, but then a lot of it's muscle. Oh, women shouldn't touch heavy weight.
Yeah, women should be dainty.
Don't touch heavy weight.
You just do little weights to tone yourself.
Yeah, no, when you go to the gym, you just dance. And you just do, jazzercise, right? You stay over there. Right.
Yeah. So how many years of avoiding?
You just do a bunch,
all of these.
Just do a bunch of cardio. So
because you need to be thin.
Yeah. But what does crash dieting and over cardio do?
We lose muscle mass.
Both of them contribute to the loss of muscle mass.
Because there's no stimulus to keep it or build it.
What's the stimulus to keep it or build it? Resistance training, dietary protein.
Boom. two things that really were not ever prioritized.
And now let's go a second thing. We're in the trenches every day. We meet with women every day. How many? What are the things that we see that? What are they not doing when they come to us?
Not eating enough protein
and not resistance
training. You know, like a very large percentage of people are not doing those things.
Look and know this, and movement's good, but like body pump and stuff like that is not resistance training.
It's cardio.
It's cardio. If you can do, if you're using a weight and you can do more than 30 reps, it's not going to provide the stimulus needed.
It's
right?
not.
So you're moving, but it's just basically it's cardio.
Your heart rate's up, and your muscles might be burning
and stuff. But you're not. We need true resistance training, right? So, and that typically involves heavier weights and more rest, which are then two things that a lot of women are uncomfortable doing because they're not used to it and they think they need to burn, right? But you actually see.
We need to build.
Yeah, we're burning. We're burning all the muscle off our bodies.
Too much.
We're not burning.
Slow the burn.
Yeah, we're not burning the fat.
Nah.
We're burning the muscle.
Yeah, and that's a big part of our gym. Like we want people to get strong, to build muscle, to be able to be healthy. Like all of those things are why we do what we do. You know, it's not like because we want a bunch of jacked Hulk bodybuilders walking around.
No,
like,
we just
want people to be good and function.
Yeah, we want you to not be 35% or more body fat.
That's the long and short of it.
You know, in reality, that's the lower end. So most then women, even if they're of normal BMI, are still could be like 40% body fat. That's almost half of your body. And most of that's not necessarily because you, like we said, a normal weight person. It's not like they have all this gargantuan amount of body fat per se, and like pounds upon pounds.
They just have not a lot of muscle.
It's because they have so little muscle. It's making their body fat percentage.
So that ratio is just way higher for body fat because the number for muscle is so low.
And again, because over the years, because they crash diet and don't resistance train, you're just losing muscle, and actually at a faster rate than if you would have not crash dieted it, right?
And done all your cardio and all of that. So definitely big cultural factors in how things were targeted at women over the years, which still is a thing. It's less, but it's still blasted all over the place.
Yes, it's more generational thing now. Like
it is.
We can meet with like 20-year-old women. And now they're all about it.
Yeah, they're like, I want to start training.
They're like using term like I'm trying to get gains. And they're like trying to hit PRs. And
which is the coolest thing to see, that shift in the new generation that is lifting.
Even yours and mine, like I'm 38. It still didn't start then. So I'll say most like 40-year-old women now, it's like you got to convince them, Whereas like everyone that's probably like 27 and under,
they got in early, and it's important to them.
Really, because that's one of the benefits of like social media, just become more normalized. And but it's definitely a generational thing. And again, you see it, right? Like,
and then add on to that, people in their 50s, 60s, 70s, none of them ever did strength training. The common thread with all of them, the thing most of them say is, "Man, I wish I did this when I was younger."
Yeah,
and it just wasn't a thing for so many of them. They're probably a very, very small niche group that maybe did it, but most people didn't. They did their cardio classes and their body pump and their Zumba and their
here's the other
enter whatever.
And you can do the strength training and not eat enough protein, and you're not going to have the materials.
That's the other piece of it.
Yeah. So literally, like you have to have both these.
You got to do the work. And here's the deal: we're not telling you to eat 200 grams of protein like you're a pro bodybuilder.
For most people, it's like 0.7 grams per kilogram of body weight. It, is enough, which breaks down per pound. I don't know. No, it's like 2.2 grams per kilogram is probably the top end, which is like 1 gram a pound. And then it's like I think it is like actually 0.7 per pound.
I think you're right, yeah.
Is a good like minimum. Probably even lower. For the most part, we recommend 100 grams a day for people, which ends up, say someone weighs 100, the average American woman's 160 pounds. So what's 160 times 0.7?
You're making me do math, man. 112.
Yeah.
So right around 100 would be fine.
Yeah.
And then, if you're You a bigger guy, you need a little bit more.
Well, if you're overweight and obese, it's technically off your lean mass. So then so the reality is it's probably even lower.
But 100's a good, easy round number. You're going to cover all your bases. It's not like unattainable for most people.
Yeah, if you eat 3 meals a day,
30 grams of protein,
30 grams of protein each meal, you're going to hit it.
Yeah, and then, hey, you could even do 3 meals and a protein shake, and it's even easier. Yeah. So it's not unobtainable. And that's a big one too, so a good check. Hey, check your waist circumference, check your protein, see what you're at, plug your food into a tracking app, see where you're at, and take a good, honest look. Dude,
it's wild when you look at it and you see like 70% of adults in the United States are considered overweight or obese. And like we know it's actually, it's higher. For women, it's probably 80% if you're going to then factor in body fat.
Which is a wild percentage. I will say there is a larger movement than there ever has been for women's strength training and gaining muscle and eating protein, and it's definitely growing. But it's still like we're not in a good position as a culture.
Because here's the scary thing: then you start diving into, and then say it's us. Like we had a whole generation where it wasn't this high, and we were younger and normal weight.
Yeah.
Now you have childhood obesity. So I mean, what do you think? Where do you think
you're right?
If you're obese when you're 9.
It's not going to change much for most people when you're 30.
You think we're going to get to where it's like 95% of the adult population is?
If something doesn't change, I think we are, unfortunately.
Yeah. Then you see where everyone thought was going to be the elixir, the semaglutide and those, but now you see what you see the negative to that is that the people that take it. So what it does is it just squashes your appetite, and then people just don't eat as much, and they lose weight. And keyword being weight,
some of it being muscle mass.
But they're finding that these people lose a significant amount.
Does that change if they really if they're doing resistance training and get enough protein? I haven't looked at it.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah.
Okay, I didn't know.
But the reality is it works because people just don't eat.
Yeah, and so it's an uphill battle for them to do those two things.
It essentially helps them crash diet.
Yeah.
Because think about it, you're not in the headspace of let me hit my macros and eat. You know what I'm saying? You're just
unless the only time, if you have a really good maybe doctor that's working with you that prioritizes that, then you would probably be okay. But how many people don't?
Well, but here's the thing. And then it spins back around to it helps and is ideal, like this medication, with diet and exercise.
Right.
But the whole problem is
most people aren't doing
everyone
that.
Already knows that they can do it also with the diet and exercise or only, but people struggle to consistently do that.
Yeah,
so
that's a good point.
Someone that then ends up needing the medication.
Are they going to do those things? Yeah.
Yeah. No. And then the reality, this is the problem, in my opinion, with medications is not just with, weight loss medication, but it's like an easy, we enter a mindset of this will take care of it. All I got to do is take this thing. Right. So then the reality is are you leveraging, the mindset needed to actually then do the lifestyle stuff? No, probably not.
That's the other piece.
Right.
Yeah. I think it can be a tool if used correctly, but can be a crutch if not.
Yeah. And again, it comes down to everyone sees the short-term benefits. Oh my gosh, this helps people lose weight. But hold on, how does it shake out long-term? And there's no way it's going to be.
And it is something, it's something you just have to take long-term too. You just got to stay on it, basically. Yeah, that's a hard one, man.
So yeah, it's an uphill battle.
It's a wild world these days.
And it comes down to you have to create your environments. I mean, like we talked about, you got to find a gym like Coastal. You got to turn the corner on how you're going to treat your nutrition. I mean, it's hard. It's a whole lifestyle change, and
a lot of it's how you treat yourself and how you look at yourself.
Yeah. On a population level, I just don't think it can be fixed because we're too far with. There's too much money. There's too much. There's just no way.
We're so far in one direction.
Yeah, that the food environment
turn that ship around. Unless something drastically changes with food advertising and a bunch of stuff like that. And
how are we going to go from in one day you can order any food you want and have it delivered to your door
to not? Yeah.
And never have to leave your house. And you can make millions of dollars. You can make the average annual income, without ever think about this, you can make all the money you need. You can get all the food you want and more than you need
from one spot.
So why would you ever need to go do anything physical? Because you don't. The only reason we did physical up until recently is it was built in.
Because we had to.
We had no choice.
Yeah, we had to do the work to get our things to live.
Exactly. If you wanted food, you had to go find it or grow it or there's labor involved.
You had to build something.
Yeah, if you wanted shelter, you had to build something. If most jobs were all physical, and now we've gotten to the point because of the digital world.
I wonder how many jobs are physical versus not these days.
Yeah.
Like what that percentage is.
So again, when you step back and look at it logically, you see how hard it is, how much is working against us. And you have to choose initially a harder path. Mm-hmm. Like volunteer to make your life
a little bit harder.
But then what people don't realize is, well, in the long term, though, your body feels good. You have less pain. That's going to be easier, physically. Your life will be better off. Whereas down the road, you took the easy button, the comfort, all those times in the short term, it's going to lead you to a lot harder life down the road. Because now when you're dealing with all the physical ailments that come with it.
So check this. Only 13% of jobs are classified as heavy work.
Hey, what
That's
if the overweight and obesity rate, like they're going to end up matching, being an inverse of each other? You know what I'm saying? So like only 13% are physical. The obesity rate, overweight rate is going to settle in, I bet, at 87%.
Do you think so? That's a good prediction.
Because here's the thing, too.
In like 15 years, you're going to bring that up, and I'm not going to remember.
Yeah.
And you've been holding on to it this whole time, hoping it was right.
Because here's the other thing with that. It's easier to eat less because you're just physically engaged. You don't have as much time to eat. Mm-hmm. That's the other second nature. Well, but now you're at home. No one's around you. You're like, you have more idle time.
Idle time?
You're going to snack more.
Eating's a great way to fill it. Let's be real.
It's funny. I was actually yesterday, this dude, my pipes had all this issue at my house. And there's this guy, plumber, that had doing all this. He has to do all this stuff. And he was there from like 11 to 7. And it's just work, bro. Like he had to get a machine and slice out the tile and then break the concrete and then get a, cutter thing, cut the pipes, replace the pipes, then we're going to have to redo the whole floor. So then he had to take out all the rest of the tile with a jackhammer and, all this, and just worked. And then had to take all the busted up concrete, take it out to his truck, dispose of it. And then if there's dirt and sand, same thing. Then he had to fill it back in. Then he had to lay more concrete.
So that's a hard day's work.
And the whole time I'm thinking, I was like, dang, he didn't eat all the whole time.
Yeah. Dude, isn't that wild?
Because he's straight working, right? And
you get in a groove sometimes with stuff like that, and you're good. You don't even think about
this guy, he's, I don't know, 60. He was in good shape,
because he does that every day.
And let's counter that with somewhere there was someone like me who was working from 11 to 7,
just sitting down,
and laying down with the dog in between the crack of my legs, and me sitting there typing like this. Now, luckily, I went to the gym earlier that day.
You built some stuff in.
For example, I went to the gym. I went for a walk that morning, purposeful walk, purposeful gym, and I also have structure and guidelines around my eating, right?
But it's a lot of work that you put in.
Just sat there and had a bag and ate the entire time and had never left my house earlier in the day.
A bag of chips.
Right? Whereas this dude,
he was engaged. He was physical.
Yeah. And that was his gym. And he didn't have a choice. That's how he had to make it. That's how he makes a living. Mm-hmm. That's how he puts food on the table.
And isn't worried about eating at that point. He's fine. He probably had breakfast.
Yep. And he'll have dinner.
And he's fine.
But do you think did he have time to sit there and munch?
He wasn't eating chips the whole time or whatever it may be. So, it's such an interesting thing to look at.
And what is all this? And like we always say, everything comes back to this. They're all environmental factors.
Yes.
Everyone wants to, it's And then we can even layer in the other environment too. Well, and then all these foods that we have to snack on and overeat are engineered to taste amazing.
Yeah, they're supposed to taste so good. You go back for more, and they're easy to overeat.
Yeah, that's a new part of our environment.
They want you to keep buying them. They're not going to make them super filling. Why would they do that?
Can you imagine 100 years ago, 20s, 30s? Like, there was no like a refrigeration and plastic.
Yeah, imagine you bring some snack back then.
What are you going to eat? What are you going to snack on?
Exactly. Imagine if you time traveled with 12 donuts. Dude, people would put those babies down. But like now, the stuff's everywhere. So easy to get, so cheap.
Yeah. It's tough, dude. It's hard.
It is. And like you said, you have to consciously work at making things a little bit harder on yourself in order to have that long-term benefit.
Refrigeration became common in the 1930s.
Okay. That's when our problem started. Oh, man. So, yeah, before that, you cure your food, you get it the same day, whatever it may be.
Well, and the reality is, refrigeration still wouldn't help you much. It only would because there'd be more places that would have it, right? The reality is only at home, so you're not at home. It's not like you have.
Yeah.
So the bigger correlation is probably like, plastic food containers and shelf life and all those things, which was 1946 was when they start to work to create what we kind of know now as highly convenient plastic packaging.
Those rats. How dare they? We need to do a full episode on that, I think.
Same thing. And then kind of, they started in like the 1930s was when plastic was first used. 1960s was like the rise of it, which...
TV dinners and stuff, is that when they got real big? 60s? Yep. 60s, 70s?
I bet the 60s. I wonder, let's see when the...
Because that was a huge thing.
Obesity rate over the decades. Let's see. And obviously this is all correlation and observational, but... it really spiked up.
So between 1980 and 2000, that was a big jump.
The 80s was a big one.
That was a really big jump.
That's I see that right there. Yeah, massive.
And then, hey, even this between, projected 2010 to 2030s, just as big of a jump. Actually, it's way more than that 80s jump. Daddy-o. Yeah, 60 to 70, a little jump. 70 to 80, tiny jump. But yeah, 80 to 2000, man.
That's when Dunkaroos came out.
That's exactly what I just thought about.
All the commercials.
Oh, everything, man.
Your kids and that, don't... there's other cool things you can compare it to with like sugar and the food, what we're eating and all that. But, oh, look, here's one that actually has TV ads, dude.
TV ads versus the obesity rates?
Yeah. Oh. Actually, the TV ads, see that green line? It actually correlates with obesity.
Yeah. See, it took a second.
More than sugar.
Yeah.
More than like reducing dairy. High fructose corn syrup.
Isn't it interesting though? Look, do you see that drop in high fructose corn syrup?
Yeah.
Is that when people became more aware of it and were like, I'm not eating this stuff?
Which was right at 2000.
Yeah.
But then obesity didn't drop.
Nope. That's a point for another day, but like...
Because they lowered the sugar, but then just added in more refined fats.
Yeah. So
vegetable
we
oils.
just balanced it out. But, I mean, TV ads, I think we really do need to do a full episode on that.
And now you have... you can get on Instagram. It's all an ad, right?
It's nothing but ads everywhere.
So
every bit of your existence is just ads and
that
ads
food,
and ads.
That food porn.
You didn't know which one to touch.
Nah. I was hoping one of the buttons was like a
something sensual.
When it like censorize like that. Beep,
oh yeah, we need to get that.
Boop. We can
a little censor
beep each other. All right, there we go. We're rambling now.
We are, but a ramble's fun. Who doesn't love a good rant?
You see, we love this stuff, man. It's interesting.
And we're passionate about it. Like, we just, we want people to be muscled, not jacked, but we want people to be appropriately muscled so that they're not in an obese range.
Yeah, which then has a lot of correlates.
Yeah, I mean, the health risks when you are obese, even if you are a seemingly normal BMI or weight, like your health risks are still a lot higher. You know, your heart problems, metabolic diseases. You can still be a quote unquote normal weight and, you know, be pre-diabetic or diabetic. You know, type 2. Mm-hmm. We're talking type 2, and that happens, you know, often enough. So yeah, your complications are just way higher. So it's just something that's really important. So we encourage you to, you know, maybe take a look at where you're at.
Yeah. All right.
BMI is not like a terrible measure of things, I don't think.
Yeah.
It's not perfect. It's flawed. So maybe add a couple more layers to it.
Especially ladies.
I mean, I think BMI with a waist measurement will give you a decently accurate position.
All right. Well, hopefully you found this helpful. We appreciate you for listening.
Yeah. We'll catch you next time.
See ya.
As always, thanks for listening, guys. If you want to learn more, check us out at coastalfitnessva.com or garydeagle.com. We'll see you next time.